Tying up a fun little panfish fly today. This is the Panfish Wiggler. Ran across this a while back and just thought it would be a fun little panfish fly to pass along. It's similar to another one that I've done a video on that is also a very productive panfish fly called the gill getter. Very simple. It's actually based off of a nymph pattern called a Michigan Wiggler, which is a steelhead fly. But this one's just made a little bit different, tied mostly for panfish. This uses a gray squirrel hair for the tail and for the back here, but you could use some dyed squirrel tail as well as like some red fox squirrel tail. This one was tied with some red fox squirrel tail. It's a little bit darker. And this one is chartreuse hackle and the chartreuse squirrel tail. So you can have some fun with this and make different colors, even different sizes, maybe even play with the eyes a little bit on this. That's the Panfish Wiggler. I'll get started tying. I'm going to start the Panfish Wiggler with my hook in the vise. This is a Mustad 9671, an R73. It is a 2X long streamer hook. You could use a Tiemco 5262 would be the equivalent. I'm going to debarb the hook. I'm going to attach my thread. For thread, I'm using a Danville 70 Denier in a dark olive color. Now, you could use a brown if you want on this, or depending on the color combinations you use for the squirrel, as well as hackle and things like that, you could even, use a chartreuse or whatever color thread you want to use. I'm going to attach my thread about an eye length behind the eye of the hook. And that's where I'm going to tie in the Bead-Chain eyes. These are black Bead-Chain eyes in a size medium. They're going to go right on the underside of the hook. They're kind of small, so it can be a little bit of a challenge to get them on and where you want. You want to leave a good eye length behind the eye to the cross piece on that Bead-Chain eyes for tying in the back or shell back, whatever you want to call it, that goes across the back, which is some squirrel tail. So I'm going to anchor these in and get these in place. Number of cross wraps to secure those. Some wraps underneath. Secure those a little bit more. And then I'm going to advance my thread down to about the point of the hook. I'm going to take my head cement, just put a little drop of head cement right down here. It's not going to keep those eyes from rotating at some point, but it will lock them down so they'll last a little bit longer. Now I'm going to tie in the tail. I'm going to use this is a gray squirrel tail, yeah. You could use a red fox squirrel if you want. As I mentioned, also you can use some dyed squirrel tail. You can get these. It's basically a gray squirrel that's dyed in different colors. This isn't going to be a real thick clump of gray squirrel. This is going to probably thin out a little bit. This is just going to get those nice contrasting colors on the tips for a tail. Now I'm holding the tips. You can't see this, it's off screen, but I'm holding this over my trash can underneath my desk here to get the shorter hairs out, the underfur and that sort of thing. Again, I don't want this to be super thick. So this is pretty good size. I'll probably take out about a third, maybe a quarter of this. Kind of mess that up a little bit, so I'm going to realign that. You could, if you wanted to, stack these so you've got a little bit cleaner end to it. I think it works just as well not stacked. So I'm going to measure this about a hook length, and then I'm going to tie that in. I want it sticking off the back about a full hook length. So that's going to be from the bend of the hook to the eye of the hook, and that's going to be then from the bend all the way out to the end. Put a few wraps, not quite down to the end, and then I'm going to come back up. I'm going to trim this so it's just, if I can, right up about the length, so it's going to tuck in right by those eyes. I'm just using this as a little bit of a underbody to give it a little bit more bulk. I'm going to end at the point of the hook again, because now I'm going to tie in some more gray fox. I should say gray squirrel. I don't know why I keep calling it gray fox. And this is going to get tied in by the butt ends here, and it is going to be the shell back on this. So once again, I'm cleaning off the under fur, the short fibers, all that stuff. Nice dry winter air full of static electricity. And I want maybe about, take out about another third of this. You can experiment with this. You don't have to have a lot in for the shell back. It doesn't take a whole lot of this. Now I'm going to cut a taper on this, and that is just to tie this in, have those ends up around the eyes, and then a little bit of a taper just as I'm putting the Peacock Herl on here, it won't jump down a little ledge there. And this time I'll wrap both the shell back and tail material all the way to the end of the shank. So then this will separate from the tail pieces here in a moment, and we'll pull that over just like that. Now for a hackle, you can use multiple different types of hackle. I'm using, this is a Grizzly Kehoe saddle here. Nice long hackles, thin on this. You could use like a whiting bugger pack also for some of this. You don't want the legs to be super long on this. I generally will go about the gap of the hook or a little bit longer. If you're going to tie, this is a size 6, and if you're going to tie this in, something smaller, say an 8 or a 10, even a 12, you might even just use some dry fly hackles. I'm going to tie this in right at the very end back here, wrapping forward to secure the tip of that hackle in. And now I will tie in my Peacock Herl. I have 4 Peacock Herls, and I'm going to tie these in by the tip. I get these more or less even. They don't have to be perfect because I'm going to trim the ends of those. I'm going to tie this in pretty much the length of the body. Again, it's going to add and just give me a little bit more of an underbody on this that just makes the overall profile of the fly a little bigger. Thread is going to be right up behind the Bead-Chain eyes, and now I shall wrap in the Herl for the body, and then the Hackle for the legs. Doesn't take a lot of wraps of the Hackle. I've got maybe 4 or 5 in there, but I do put in 1 extra wrap right behind the eyes just to build it up just a little bit. And I like these because, as you can see, there's a little bit of a taper to them. Now, you could put a little bit of dubbing in there if you wanted to. You could even tie in another Peacock Herl and go around that if you want. I'm just going to bring my thread forward halfway between the Bead-Chain eyes and the eye of the hook. This is where I'm going to fold over that squirrel. You can move some of those hackles out of the way. I don't think it's that critical. I'm going to bring this forward, pulling fairly tight on that squirrel so that it just lays nice and flat along the back. I'm going to get 2 or 3 wraps in to secure that, make certain all of that's right up on top. Trim away the excess nice and close. And then just put a little bit of a head on this. Now, if you wanted to, you could put, some people will seal up the front here with some UV resin. You could put some UV and or epoxy along the back here if you want to. That's really up to you. I'm just going to hit this with a little bit of head cement right on those thread wraps and on the underside just a little bit to get some more down in there. These are so quick and easy to make that I don't generally put in the extra time to do that. But if you find that you're bouncing these along the bottom a lot and either the hairs are pulling out from the thread wraps and or getting busted up, by all means put a little something on there to protect that. That is the Panfish Wiggler. Fun little fly. Very, very productive little pattern. Thanks for watching today. Thank you for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned a new pattern, at least a tip or trick here and there. If you'd like to help Dress Irons, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things for the video. You can also head out to dressedirons.com where you can buy flies, tools, stickers, and merch, or you can join a growing community over on Locals at the Dressed Irons Fly Tying Guild. You can also donate to Dressed Irons if you want through the link at the bottom of the description. I thank everybody for their ongoing support, as it really does help the creation of these videos. But what's important is to remember, only fly tying. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.